Updike, who has written a statement. We have PowerPoint to show you. There's lots to share. At the end, we want to talk about this terrific community art project that Tricia has invented and I have absconded with. And hopefully there'll be time to hear from all of you, because I know there's a lot of beautiful artists in the audience that we would love to hear from. So I want to say that the engines are percolating here at PEG Center for Art and Activism. We have a solo show coming in sometime in June. It's called The Air That We Breathe, and the artist is Tobin Ekian. And it was designed to be a group show back in January, and we modified it. But Tobin has created 12 gorgeous paintings, and we're going to make sure that they are seen in all their glory. And then sometime in the summer, we're doing a show of 90-year-old artists, and I think it's going to be fabulous. We've got community art projects coming, and if there's if you have it in your heart to support us in any way, it's very easy. You go to paypal.me/PegCenter with our appreciation. So without further ado, I am going to introduce Heidi, who I was sitting here thinking tonight, I think we go back to the 90s. Holy God, we actually met at Artisans in the Open in Regina, in Ingrid Regina's backyard many, many years ago. And I want to say that your work, Heidi, has changed so much over the 2 decades that we have known each other. And Heidi and I have come in and out of each other's lives, but always with a great deal of respect and love for each other. And she worked at the gallery when we were very new. And she has produced, which you probably can see behind me, these are the actual pieces in the Family Trees show, some powerful, powerful imagery. So I'm going to start the PowerPoint so that she can talk about her beautiful work. Sorry. All right, go for it, Heidi.
Where can you guys see me? Hello?
Yeah, we can see you.
Oh, okay. So basically this bird is it's a dove, and I painted it on a found piece that I got from Todd Farm, which I miss so bad during this time. Can I just tell you that much? And basically what I was dealing with, what I was struggling with was and this is before the pandemic, is that we're losing sense of what's real, what's fake, what's truth, what's lies. And to me, this dove and doves in general are used as a symbol of hope, peace, love, and truth. So I really wanted to paint this piece on something that it looks like it's a tribal piece that, like I said, I had picked up at Todd Farm. And I wanted to imprint this image on that. And I loved how serendipitously the top little decoration almost looks like a crown for him. So I started off this whole process with one of my other pieces. There's a magpie, and that was actually the first one that I did. Nope. Not that. There you go. And I did this on a piece of found canvas that I had laying around. And instead of trying to fix the rough edges or whatever, I figured I was going to use them. And I was thinking of my parents when I did this. So it's funny that they wind up hanging in a show that's about family tree. But really, yeah. I was inspired by my parents for 2 reasons. My mother was an artist too, and she painted a lot of birds. So, I mean, she did a lot of that. But my father loved birds. But right before, when my mother passed, I was with her, and she had gone through a brain injury. So her words came in and out in little fits and starts. And one of the last things that she could string together was, she said, "Benny loves birds." My father's name was Ben. And he did love birds. And for some reason, I was just drawn to the idea of making these birds. And when I made it in my studio that I was really, really happy with. And it was a gift that my parents had given me, the ability to have that studio space. So when I began this piece, I did so in a state of prayer first, and gratitude. And this is kind of what jumped out at me. I saw a picture it was National Geographic actually, and for some reason this magpie really spoke to me, and I felt like it was strength and wisdom and just a love of nature that came from my father. But behind that love of nature came a sense of reverence for all living things, and through that comes
Can I show the peacock or
the
another one?
pheasant. Yeah.
But so let's talk about this one, can we?
Yes, absolutely. That's a white egret, and I picked that because it's we see a lot of these. Actually, you can see them flying around now, and I'm concerned about what could possibly happen in our area with the offshore drilling. What could we possibly have pollution and things that are represented here with the fire on the water? I mean, I grew up in Buffalo. I mean, as I was a kid, there was so much smog and pollution and dead fish in the rivers. You couldn't swim in the river. You couldn't swim in the lake. It was gross. So we've come so far, and it feels like we're going back. And this is not what I want. So the verbiage that runs around are quotes from naturalists and quotes out of the Bible that speak about the importance of nature and the reverence and the balance of nature, and how we're supposed to be guardians of nature, and we're screwing it up. And it's heartbreaking to me. I mean, I can feel it.
Mm-hmm.
So
This is one of the most powerful in the show of yours, I think. I'm going to move on so that you have time to talk about all of them.
sure. And this one is like homage to a taxidermied piece that I bought at Todd Farm. And I mean, and normally I would never buy any kind of taxidermy. This was a really, really old, beat up, piece. And I thought, geez, like this poor little life should be honored somehow. So I figured I'll immortalize it. And that's why it has like the halo around it. A lot of my imagery has that, because I think of these animals as sentient beings. I think of everything as a sentient thing, and that we're all kind of connected together.
That's beautiful. And this one.
Also found that piece of canvas with the tool belt bit piece at Todd Farm, and I figured I'd paint something on that, so I put the pelican on there. And they're struggling too, so that's why he's got a little halo over his head.
So Heidi, I'm going to stop the PowerPoint so that we can ask you what's happening in your creative world since the pandemic. Has it been a time of fruitful exploration creatively? Has it been a time of hiding out, or of not knowing yet what the new voice is from you?
Yes. It's been all of that. Yeah, no, I mean, seriously. Initially, it was, I was on hyperdrive because I knew I felt this was coming way before anybody else. And I was like the crazy lady in Market Basket, like loading up on stuff. And that, there was a lot of shame in that, because people, I could tell, were judging me and snickering, and I could hear all kinds of stuff and dirty looks. It was unbelievable. But once it hit and it was obvious, I went into just survival mode and couldn't sleep and all that kind of stuff. Now I'm in a place where, after actually talking to you last night, the whole idea of forces, with and against us, and this is like a big realization that we are really interconnected, that there are, I think as human beings, we've become so highly adaptive to new technologies, and whether you feel like we're we're masters of the universe. Well, we're part of the universe, right? So the natural world, these animals that have usually been taking the punches way before us, now we're in their shoes, right? Like, the birds are fine, you know, as long as we don't, whatever, they're not dying from this. So I'm looking at this as the work that comes out of me from here is going to represent a couple of things. Number one, I got to find a way to represent the hope that I feel, but I also feel this struggle. And I feel we're on a precipice of either coming together and as a community and as human beings and as soulful human beings, souls, we need to be able to, and I'll start with myself, need to be able to stop judging and to connect and work together and try to do something. I'm given an opportunity now to give, and there are good things that have come out of this pandemic. And so artistically, that's what I hope to do, to represent these forces that have just been dropped on me as a human being.
So may I ask, do you think that you will continue to explore wildlife with reverence, or do you think that your subject matter, do you feel something percolating specifically, or are you in a walkabout?
No, I think I've been in a walkabout, and I think it's starting to take shape now, and it'll always, it's going to have animals in it for sure. I even think I'm going to keep doing stuff with birds. I like the idea that they, you know, that they can take flight and, you know, somehow
I've never seen anybody describe birds like you, and I'm so deeply impressed with it that I'm actually going to go back. I hope. Because I want to see it again. The detail, the eyes, the expression, the heart. I mean, I feel these creatures as if they are relatives of mine. And do you know, this painting was hanging in the show for 2 weeks before I realized that the horizon line was on fire. I didn't go deep enough. And to me, your pictures, much like Tricia's, are so layered that meaning unfolds as you spend time with it. There's a layer of text, there's the layer of the gorgeous subject matter, there's a layer of gorgeous flowers, but then you go a little deeper and other things are happening. There's a sadness and a poignancy about all of your work that I find just beautiful.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you're doing it. And you know, when I first met you, you were painting silk, and look how far you've come. And look what you're doing now.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Yeah, no,
so thank you.
I am grateful for the opportunity, Paula, that you've given me in so many ways, and just the fact that you continue to adapt even during these really tough times, that you find a way to connect people. It is like such an incredible gift to us.
Well, this is like the Hollywood Squares for me, and I don't know who to munch first. I wanna like just grab you and hug you and eat you. But Heidi, we're coming back to you, but I'm gonna move on just at the minute.
Yes.
So I'm gonna mute you. But I want to say, for all you Tricia fans there, I'm sorry we put her at the end, but there's a reason for that, because it's her community art project. So we're gonna segue to that at the end. But so I have the distinct privilege of, oh, jeepers. Well, I don't want to play it from the beginning, but hang on, I will. Of sharing with you Miranda Updike's work, who is also in this beautiful Family Trees show, and who is way, way too shy to show up at anything like this. So I'm going to just, she wrote a beautiful statement, and with your permission and your indulgence, I'm going to read it. Thank you so much. My new series is called the Bare Trees series. They are very different from the crowd paintings with materials, subject matter, and composition. So here's 2 examples of Miranda's crowd paintings, and we'll ask at the end if anyone is familiar with her work, because the gallery picked her up at the get-go about 5 years ago with these paintings. I was so enamored, and still am, of her crowd paintings. But it might surprise you to know that this new series bubbled up as a reaction to the crowd work that I was doing. In the last 3 years, there has been lots of protests, many of which you've probably attended, and although lots of the crowds that I have painted specifically related to protests, the body of work was gradually becoming exclusively about protests. The crowds were getting bigger and denser, and painting crowds began to feel overwhelming. I stepped away to explore a subject that was much more tranquil. The Bare Trees series is a tribute to our trees. One thing I love about trees, deciduous trees, is when their leaves come down and we see those gnarly, naked branches weave into the winter light. Those little pockets of shape that the branches knit, pushed beyond the trees and pull the background into their space. I wanted to take that idea of knitted branches to a bare bones visual and used a geometric grid to help express clarity, simplicity, and order. I also decided to have 2 distinctly different mediums within the same picture plane to give the bare trees and the winter light their own unique dignity. I used shellac on bare wood to describe my trees and matte acrylic paint to describe the different winter light. One critical material that I used that you can't see here is blue tape. I spent most of my time masking off areas to create this series. You also might notice that each painting has a color-dominated theme. And I'm not really sure why I needed to do that, but I can tell you I was inspired by a painting I saw at the Addison Gallery in Andover by artist Ad Reinhardt called Abstract Painting Red, 1952. This painting is about the size and format of a door. It is entirely composed of a grid of matte red rectangles that are ever so subtly different in color. Oops. I'm just going to start at the beginning so you can see again. Ad Reinhardt was associated with the abstract expressionists of the 50s and 60s. He had a unique painting technique, which was with the use of glass jars and turpentine to pull the oil out of his oil paints and use the leftover sludgy pigment to create his works. Without the oil, his paintings are devoid of any sheen, and his idea was to create paintings of pure color. When you experience this painting, at first you think it is one solid colored red rectangle, but as your eyes adjust, the different shapes, when you experience this painting, at first you think it is one solid color, red rectangle, but as your eyes adjust, the different shades of red emerge. An actual physical thing happens to you when you look at this work. I didn't practice this technique of painting, but I did borrow the idea of sticking to one color family because I feel it looks really cool and has incredible visual power. Thank you, Miranda Updike, for sharing your words and your paintings with us. And we'll envelop all of you in just a little bit, but I'm going to jump right to my friend Tricia Jones, who, all right, so, you know, Tricia, you should unmute yourself. I
did.
Okay, good. So it turns out that Paula Este Gallery is about relationships and about connecting, as Heidi was saying, and our artists are part of a network that fills our heart and gives back to our community so much. So I love the relationships that we have with our various artists, and Tricia is no exception. I think we met, gosh, in the late 90s or early 2000s. We painted together in Amesbury, and then we kind of lost touch for a little while. I don't know what even happened to explode this relationship, but I think Tricia contacted me and I went to see her work, and I was floored like 15 years later where this lady had gone, because I saw the inklings of it. I saw what was started in her, and my God, it has deepened, it has ripened, it has developed so beautifully, Tricia, over the years. So I'm just going to hand it over to you. And do you want to say anything before we start your PowerPoint?
Well, yes, I want to say something I've wanted to say to you before.
Oh, don't
I wanna
embarrass me now. Yeah.
I want to thank you for going out on a limb, pun intended, to include me in this show of Family Trees. So
My pleasure. Totally my pleasure. You and I remember saying to you, like, without your work in this show, it would have been much more, not traditional, but figurative. It would have been much more figurative. So I just love
leave it to me.
Oh, Jesus, it keeps
So,
happening that way. Here we go. So these pieces are all in Family Trees at the gallery right now.
okay, yeah. Okay, well, I want to say that this work is part of a series that I am doing. I have done these, obviously, but it's ongoing. But it's a series that I'm calling Interior Landscapes. And, and it's autobiographical. And well, we'll see I sort of thought you'd go through them quickly, but I guess the other thing I wanted to say was that initially when we talked about doing this evening and including the pandemic discussion along with the work that was in the show, for 2 seconds I thought there wasn't any relationship particularly between my work in the show that was done prior to the pandemic and now. But what I realized was that there's a lot of connection because these pieces, as we go along, are all about loss and grief and where do I fit in and insecurity, and also about resilience and reconciliation. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a lot of what we need now and what we're going through, and hopefully with some positive outcome. This piece is called Practice Makes Perfect. And I think the titles speak volumes for what the pieces are. I don't really think I can elaborate that much more. You have to see, being closer helps for sure. But okay, and this is one of my faves. This is called The Thems. These are all 24 by 24 pieces, by the way. But this is called The Thems, and it's childhood drawings of various neighborhoods with people's houses. These are from an early age, but people's houses. And I very much wanted to live in somebody else's house and have somebody else's parents. And that's really what, honestly, the pieces represents. So that's that piece. Okay, this is what's called standard deviation. And it's a piece about not fitting in, and those issues that kids go through. And unfortunately, you can't really, there's some report cards in here with comments about my behavior and other references to school material. So that's standard deviation.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this is one of my favorites.
Yeah. This is called No Child Left Behind, and I think I named it during the Obama. I didn't have a name for it, or I had another name, but I renamed it during the Obama administration. And I was Patty as a little girl, and I felt, left out. And actually, there's a drawing in here of a bedroom that has parent beds, and then, my little bed in there, to be included. But basically, I felt on the outside. This is not a piece about resolution particularly.
What's the name of it again, Patricia?
No Child Left
Yeah.
Behind.
Yeah.
And this is called A Visit to the Old Neighborhood. And it's good that it's shown the last, because it is the last, and it is about well, A Visit to the Old Neighborhood is, all the other pieces were A Visit to the Old Neighborhood. And this is, there is resolution and reconciliation in this one. And yeah, I feel there's a feeling of healing for me. And again, there's stuff you see if you can get really close to it.
So I'm going to stop here so that you can talk to us about where you're at now in your creative process.
Okay. Well, I went through, a variety of feelings since this all has happened. I was in, it was surreal, and I was shocked initially, sort of numb, and then I went into, I have a studio in Amesbury, and I dashed to the studio to get supplies. Some people were going to the supermarket to get toilet paper, but I was going to the studio to get supplies to bring them home so I would have something to work with, because I just need to say before I forget that I have survived many crises in my life, but always using art. 9/11 being since I'm from New York City, Manhattan specifically, I did a lot of art around 9/11, which was some of it displayed and some of it I kept, but anyway, so that will come for me. I don't have anything so anyway, just to finish it, what I did start doing after I got my supplies home was I started documenting in written form what has happened day by day. Some of it fact, some of it my observation, some of it questions that I have. So, and I haven't read it yet, but it's not over because I'm still writing. But
that's a beautiful
other
way.
thing, I found my studio building has been open during this time, and I've been able to go there. It's a direct out of the car into the door of the studio, and I'm so grateful for that. Even if I didn't do any work, sometimes I just sat there. My studio and my art is a refuge for me.
I feel like that coming here to the gallery. It's a refuge.
So
Yeah.
that's been healing, but interesting to me is that I found myself working on a piece that I've been working on for a long time called End of Story. And and Paula, it's the piece that you're helping me resolve. But it's the story, well, it's 40 by 40, and it's, I'm ripping up journals that I've written for 50 years and pasting them onto this surface, and it's the message for me is that I don't want to that writing journals over all these years, it's just repeating the same stuff over and over again, and I don't feel like it's useful for me any longer. But what seems significant is, as I've been working on it, the end. I'm saying it's the end of story, but at the same time, is this the end for me before I even finish the piece that I might get the virus myself. So where does the story end? So that piece is still in motion, but I think the thing that really has come up for me is, and part of it's because of being in isolation, is to do a community project.
Mm.
And
Shall we
that,
go to that now?
yeah, well, yeah, sure.
But you know what? I do
No, but
want to say that. Oh, did you tell me what you wanted to say?
no, I didn't. I was going to say, do you have a question?
I do. I have, I have a comment because I think one of the reasons why I adore your work is, it's connected to me somehow. Um, and my early work, which I'm not working anymore, but it reflected some of the layering that you do. And what I so admire about your work is that you became willing to use the originals because, and that to me is a huge step, knowing you a little bit, but more than that, it's hard for us to do that. And I think it speaks to throwing it all into the piece, throwing everything you got at it, and that's a beautiful thing. So
Thanks. Yeah, why? I mean, why save it now? So, I mean, I'm 70 years old, so put it.
so this tell us about this. Oh, sorry,
Well,
I have to,
can you
hang on.
show that?
I want to go somewhere else. Sorry, so that I can see you. Sorry. There we go. How come I'm out of? Can everybody see each other as they used to?
Yep.
Okay, good. Tricia, talk to us about this.
Can you show the? I don't see it. Is it there?
Oh, all right. Yeah, I think I
I
did
mean, I can
something.
talk about it anyway, but I just like to see it.
I didn't do it correctly, so I'm going to start again.
Here it is. Okay.
I guess that's as good as we're going to get it at the minute because I don't want to. Okay, you can
Okay.
see it, and everybody else can see it.
This is a joy journal, a visual journal that represents. It's not quite 1 year. I cut the year short, but it's every day for whatever 297 days. I made a 2x2 collage of something that brought joy to my heart. And I collected them and then mounted them on this paper that I folded into an accordion style. And my husband, I'm glad he's here, helped me hang this. That's better, yeah. It's hanging in my studio now. We hung it right before the pandemic, so only 2 people, other than he and I
love it.
have seen it live. But it's there with me every day, and it was very gratifying to do. And some days were hard. It was hard to come up with stuff, honestly. But overall, it was a pleasure. So I sent it to Paula to look at, because I thought it might be an interesting format to do a community project around the pandemic and have people make their own collages. And I mean, we haven't, this is in process, we haven't finalized anything, but to, say something that they want to say. And have it, have it hanging, and hopefully at the gallery in windows or whatever, right? So
I think it's a fantastic idea. I really do.
I mean, there are other people who have. I understand there are other things that are going on in Newburyport, artistically, then, which is great. So all the better that we have more.
I like it for a number of reasons. I mean, it's practical. We can do it. We can actually accomplish it. And it allows people to give some kind of expression. Tricia and I thought, let's stretch a canvas on the side of the gallery. And then I thought, my landlord will not appreciate and you can't control it either.
Right.
But I wanted to ask if there were any comments or questions for the artists, or any other form. If you just want to raise your hand or comment in the chat box, that would be awesome. Before we depart, I know Carol Benali, I'm so glad to see you. She's from Arizona. I'm going to unmute you, darling.
Oh,
And she's speaking next week, which I'm wicked excited about. I miss you.
yeah, I do too. I was all set to come out, and I'm really feeling it every day. I have the ocean hanging behind me, but you know, I wanted to be there. And I really appreciate listening today on all these artists and how they really talk about their lives and what's meaningful to them. This is, you know, I was feeling really lonely today, and I was like,
Me
I
too.
need another artist to talk to. And
Mm.
just hearing this has been really, really so beneficial, I think, for
I'm
all
so
of us.
glad. I'm so glad. I was feeling that too. I was feeling really isolated today, and seeing all your beautiful faces is just so encouraging. And I know a lot of you are creatives, and it fills my heart with hope and possibility, you know, that together we can see a different picture. We can see a different picture.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, Annika, I'll unmute you.
Oh, there.
Okay, good.
I'm
Thank you.
I'm good. Okay. Yeah, I love the theme and the doability of it. I'm currently working with a dream person, and we got to the point where it's all about joy. So the theme is like, you know, really zinging with me. You know, how to feel the joy that you feel and express it, and to do it with art is like fabulous. And I love the collage because I have a wonderful little collection of things that I can collage together. So I'm
That'll be
excited about it.
fun. Oh, good. You know, I didn't know we had to stick to joy. I missed that part of Tricia's collage. Do we have to? All right, all right. Probably it's good. Would any? Hi, Donna Dia. Nice to see you. Hi, Yvonne. So good to see you. Any other comments for the artists or anyone? I see.
I have some things to say.
Yes, yes, please.
I don't know Heidi, and I'm not a birder. I'm rather ignorant about birds, although I've been trying to communicate with one outside my window at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I think
Yes.
I'm in there, but I still don't know its name. But what struck me about the series of birds in this idea of family is that each bird seemed to be expressing a different attitude towards life. And I was thinking of how, I don't know, but it felt to me as if Heidi's family is in part the family of birds in whose flights and attitudes she can identify her own.
Mm.
So she has joined that family, it seems to me.
So beautiful.
So
Oh,
that's
really nice.
that's one thing I felt there. And with
Heidi.
Miranda Updike, I have one of her paintings from the art barn, and it's a flower. It's kind of a flower with petals that are flying out and falling, and yet the stem is trying to withstand that dissipation of energy. And it seems to me that there's that kind of polarity of forces coming into these new grid paintings that she's doing that are so unlike those.
Yeah, I agree.
Paintings with colorful petals. But there is still that same exploration of theme, of finding the spine and things.
Very good point, Yvonne.
So
Beautiful. You know, she's struggling to create at the minute. Yeah, she did the big trees.
Her own words of the grid, she used 3 words that she was attracted to Ad Reinhardt's grid: the clarity, simplicity, and order. So there's that spine again.
Yes, and you know, her crowd paintings, as she described, were closing in on her with less and less clarity and order, and she needed her joy painting. She needed return to her roots.
Well, I can identify that because somehow the grid has always been part of my explorations in photographs and mixed media work. And in fact, I've been teased about it So much so that, you know, when are you going to get out of the grid? I've been asked. So I one time did a series of photographs, 12 of them, called Inside the Grid.
Nice.
So I can identify with that
Thank
appreciation
you.
of that structure.
Thank you so much, Yvonne.
In architecture as well. And then of course with Tricia, we are good friends and pollinators. We like to pollinate each other's thoughts and energies. And so there's lots and lots to say here, but I just admire so much this willingness to explore visually the emotional terrain of a life.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, Donna Dia, let's hear from you. Let's unmute you. Okay.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Paula. I was feeling, like many of you had said, I was feeling very isolated and alone today. So this is absolutely wonderful. I'm not a fine artist. That's not what I do, but I have great respect for art. So to be here and see how you share from your hearts and souls is just, oh, so moving. So I thank you for you doing that. I love birds, Heidi, you know, very much. And the dove is very special, but I love birds. So seeing those is very special. And Tricia, your vulnerability too. I mean, all of you, you know, to be vulnerable, to share like that is a very beautiful thing. And I love the idea of joy and doing that. So thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you, Donna Dia. Wonderful. And I just want to acknowledge that we have people on this Zoom event from Florida, Vermont, Maine. Where else are you represented from? So I feel so grateful and very happy to have you and see all of your faces. And thank you for joining us. Next week, we have the iconic Carol Bonali, who we've, you know, oh my gosh, we've sold so many of your beautiful Mars scenes, and Bonita LaFleur. I know a lot of you know her. She's a fabulous abstract painter, as the last in our series. So thank you so much. Namaste to all of you. Stay healthy, stay grand, stay huge. I love you, and good night. Thank you. I'm staying, so you have to say goodnight and leave. I'll watch you go. Bye.